idea. Starting with your diet or Tevil.
Starting with Uktzin.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay. Sorry. Just look at the front. Okay. Uktzin. Aleph Gimel, correct?
Aleph Gimel, yes.
Right. These contract tuma and and convey tuma, but do not combine. The roots of garlic, onions, and leek when they are dry, and the stalk that is not directly opposite the food, and the handle of a grapevine branch, the hand breadth or at either side, the handle of a cluster of grapes, wherever its length may be, and the tail of a cluster that has one bared, and four handbreadths of the handle of the broom of the date palm, and three handbreadths that stalk of a ear of grain, and three handbreadths of the hands of all crops that are cut, and those crops which are not as their norm to be cut, their handles and their roots, whatever their length may be, and the bristles of ears of grain, these contract tuma and convey tuma, but do not combine. These do not combine tuma when they convey tuma, and they do not combine. The roots of kohlrabi stems, the generating roots of spinach, beet, and turnip, and um, uh, those plants that are normally clipped but not uprooted. If Yossi says all of them are tame, but rules the roots of the kohlrabi stems and turnips tahor. All turnips, all handles of food that one crushed on the threshing floor are tahor, and Rav Yossi rules the crushed stalks tame. The snippet of a cluster of grapes that one bared is tahor, but if one left a single berry on it, it is tame, and a spicklet of dates that one bared is tahor. But if one left on a single date is tame. But if one left on a single date, it is tame, and so too with legumes. A pod that one bared is tahor. One left on a single berry, it is tame. Elazar ben Azariah rules the pot of a fava beans tahor and rules the pot of other beans tame because the person desires a field for them. Okay.
Okay. Ukte Tainim. Grogros. Okay, so the stems of figs and
Yeah,
of and
it's
grogros,
interesting in this village version they call it the peduncle of figs.
the peduncle. Ah, okay, so we can have a proper term there. The peduncle. That's the you know how a fig looks.
Yeah,
It's got that soft stem
right.
going up to the top. So typically when you eat a fig, you don't pop that in your mouth as well, right? You bite it off, and that doesn't have much flavor over there. Okay. The grogros are again they're the dried figs. But klusim are
Chickpeas,
the what?
chickpeas, and
Chickpeas.
carrots.
Okay,
Right.
and carobs. Okay, right. So the carob you put the whole pod in your mouth and start chewing it. But there's a stem at the top which you typically don't eat. Okay, hare elu mitamin umitamin umitztarfin, which means that we're calling them a shomer. All of them are considered a shomer. Why? Because if you pull off that stem, then the top of the fruit starts to go hard or
Right.
bad, whatever. So it's needed there to protect the fruit. Once it's a protector, it you add it into the volume of the minimum volume. Rabbi Yossi Omer, af oketz delas. He includes also the good, the butternut or whatever. Ukte hagasin v'kristamelin. Agasim and kristamelin are type of figs. Not figs, pears.
No, no, no. This
Tarshim,
says apples and quinces. The
apples and
first one is pears. Pears, Christmas apples, and yeah,
uh,
right.
apples and quinces, right? So they're all kind of the same type of fruit, that sort of hard, crunchy fruit, right? And you know what the stem of an apple is like. Oh, oketz de las tefach. Um, Hang on, this is right. So oketz de las the stem of a gourd, which obviously is not like Rabbi Yossi. Oketz kunras. Kunras is an artichoke. Okay, tefach. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzadok Omer
This
tifchaim.
says egg. This says eggplant.
Eggplant. Okay,
This
I,
says,
my translation had artichoke. I'm not too fussed about exactly what your translation is. We're talking about a fruit, tachlis, that is not affected if you take off the stem. It's not going to go bad. Apple's not going to go bad if you pull out the stem. But it's nice, it's useful to pick up the apple by the stem or whatever. It's another place that you can pick it up from. Okay. And the debate is it a tefach? Rabbi Elazar bar Tzaddik says two tefachim. Hooray, elud mitamim umetamin velo mitzarfin. In other words, just a yad, not a shomer. Ushar kol uktzim lo mitamin velo mitamin. But other stems do not become tummy at all. So just trying to. This sounds like it's an exhaustive list of different fruits. Some of them are considered shomrim, some of them are considered yados, and some of them are just not considered at all. What else would I'm just trying to think of other fruits that might be involved, like let's say a pomegranate. Um, so the stem of a pomegranate is not considered yad even. It's because I guess it's the pomegranate it kind of just breaks off and is not you don't use the yad at all. You don't use the stem at all. Okay. Um
It's interesting, by the way, Shaw. It says here in the commentary that the peduncle of an eggplant, Noah, um, the kunaros, is an as an artichoke.
that's what I
But
got. Yeah.
right, that's what you had said. But it seems that some are calling it an eggplant.
Okay.
Um,
Like I
it
said,
doesn't.
I'm not fussed. I'm not fussed about the specific things. What we're trying to really establish is principles, and we're demonstrating the principles by showing specific cases. So you can see like
I
these ones
understand.
with the
That's it.
with like with a soft with a stem that joins into soft fruit. Here are some with stems that are strongly joined into the fruit, but don't protect it, and some that are just irrelevant.
It says here, even though it says here, the Rav and Rush describe as inherently bitter vegetables whose bitterness is removed through boiling one vegetable in hot water. A description that is more applicable to an eggplant than to an artichoke.
Okay.
That's it. So,
All
okay.
right, Perek Beis. Zeisim shikvashan betarfehen. Um, so if you took olives and you started pickling them with their leaves. Okay. So now lefi Tahorim lefi shelo kvashan ela mar'eh. So even though you might consider that the leaves are part of the whole mix, and as such, I don't know. I'm like, are olive leaves actually edible? I have to guess that olive leaves are actually edible in some state because they treat them as if they are already tame, and if they weren't edible, then they wouldn't be susceptible to tame at all. So
Would that be the grape leaves?
olive.
No, but would it be the same?
Grape leaves, grape leaf. Yeah, I'd probably extend this to grape leaves, but we're talking about zaysim, about olives right now. So let's not talk about grapes and confuse things. Olives are being pickled, and some leaves are inside the whole mixture. Now, what happens if the leaves were tame? Are they joined onto the? Do they join onto the olives? No, they do not. Lefi shiluk vashan illa maria. They're just there for the look. Okay, they're not adding anything to the flavor, and they're not considered not a yad, not a shomer. Kishus shel kishus. Okay, so now we're talking about the furry stuff that you get on cucumbers, right? Some species of cucumbers have got hair on them.
I never saw that.
Yeah, you do get. Actually, I've seen them in Europe, and I thought, ew, gross. I don't want to buy these cucumbers. They're hairy. Yeah. Um, okay, but they do have some hair on them. The English cucumbers are nice and smooth, and I think like everyone prefers those because you don't even have to peel them. Okay.
Yeah.
Shilkishos v'haneit shela. And oh, that's the feathers. So what? Hang on. What's the kashus? Is this? Yeah, that's the thin hair, and the perach is the nates. The nates shela is a perach shebarosha. There's a little flower on the end. So on the end of a cucumber, there's a little furry flower on the tail of the cucumber.
I saw that. I just see a stem. I never saw a flower.
No, no. So not on the part that joins into the plant. There's a stem on the one side, and on the other side, there's a little dot there. It's like and sometimes if you'll see a little bit of growth on the end, possibly where it was growing and came off. But that's called the nates, a little flower on the end. Tahora, not considered. They're completely tahor, not a yad, not a shomer. Rabbi Yehuda Omer calls man shehi lifnei hatagar tmea. He says no. If they're at the marketplace on the merchant's table, then they're considered tame. Why? Because he likes them. He likes them there to protect the fruit from people who are touching them and taking a look at the merchandise. So they protect the inner fruit. And therefore he says that they are they're considered part of the fruit as a shomer. And as a shomer, they'd even count as part of the volume.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is not the halacha. Mishnah base, call ha galinin. A galin is the stone inside a fruit. Mitamos. So they become tame umitamos, and they also transmit tumah. Velo mitztarfos, but they do not join. Okay, so in other words, what are we talking about? We're talking about a yad, not a shomer. If they don't join, then they're a yad. It's something that you could pick up the fruit by. That's the stone. Okay. Gal ina shel rotev. Rotev over here is a fresh date. Okay, so the stone of a fresh date, af al pi sheyotza mitztarefes, even though it's protruding a little bit. Sometimes the stone will be shifted and push up through the top of the date. It nonetheless joins, which means that this is not just a yad; it's also a shomer. Because why? The stone protects the fruit from going hard. It keeps it fresh. Okay, so that's called a shomer. Shali Bisha, however, if the date is already dried, Eina mitzarefes. It doesn't join. All it's doing is being a yad. So you could pick it up by that stone, but it's not doing any function of protecting. Lefichach, chosal shel yevesha mitzaref. Therefore, the chosal is the membrane. There's a thin membrane that surrounds the stone of the date. Okay, so the membrane of a dry date is mitzaref. Shel rotev eno mitzaref. So now the membrane takes the place of the stone. So if the stone is protecting, then the membrane is not, and if the membrane is protecting, then the stone is not. So
Mhm.
it's kind of an inverse thing that the membrane takes on the opposite end of the stone. That in a dry one, the membrane is mitzaref, and in a fresh state, eno mitzaref. Okay. Gal ina miktsasa yotza. So if the stone is partially protruding, shekeneged ochel mitzaref. Whatever is opposite the fruit, that's mitzaref. But whatever's outside is not mitzaref. So if you want to see it, did it make the minimum shear? You don't count the part that's protruding. Etzem sheyesh alav basar. Now switching to flesh. If you've got a bone that's got flesh on it, okay, that's got meat on it. Shekeneged ochel mitzaref. Whatever, if you've just got a piece of bone that's got a little bit of that's got part of it has got meat on it. You only count the bone that's on the meat as as being part of the meat in order to count the minimum shear, because the bone also is going to be counted. Is the bone a shomer, or is it just a yad? So the part that the meat is attached to, that's a shomer. It's protecting the meat from going bad on that side. Haya alav mitzad echad. If it's only on one side of the meat of the bone, so there's meat only protruding off one side of the bone. Rabbi Yishmael omer roin oso ki'ilu hu makifu betabas. We treat it as if it was surrounded by meat, like by a ring of meat. And in other words, we count the entire bone that's opposite where the meat is attached, in order to count the volume. Only that part of the bone that is actually next to the meat. How thick does it have to be? How thick would you go? Not the entire circumference of the bone, just the part that's opposite the meat. Now, how deep do you go? Because when you're counting volume, you've got to have depth as well. I guess that you'd
Right.
have to work out what's the minimum amount of bone that would actually be that would actually be helpful to protect the meat. So I don't know if you're talking about like maybe a clipper, sort of the depth of a fingernail. Uh,
Uh-huh.
that would be your typical thing. I would guess. I'm just guessing here. I don't know, and it's not spelled out in my version. Chachamim say that you only count the part that's directly next to the meat. Kigon hasia va'ezov va'kornis. Like what are these different herbs? Translate for me, please. One of them was one Azov is hyssop, sia, and Cornus. Well, I think one of them was rue. What are the others?
Oh, this is the opposite of food compliance. It says wild rosemary, hyssop, and savory.
Wild rosemary, hyssop, and savory. Now, okay, what's the connection of these things? That their stem is very thin, and they've only got edible part on one side, and shark only the part that's opposite the edible part is what joins. So it's just it's a similar situation over there that you only count the part of the stem that is directly next to the edible part. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back to Yadayim.
Dalit. If one rinsed utensils in the water, if he scrubbed measures with the water, it is invalid. However, if he rinsed it in the water, utensils that were already rinsed or that were new, the water is valid. But Yosi invalidates the water in the case of new utensils. The water into which the baker dips the rolls isn't valid, but if he rinses his hands in it, it's valid. Everyone is qualified to pour water on hands, even a deaf mute, an imbecile, and a minor. One may place a barrel between his knees and wash their hands from it, and one may turn a barrel on its side and wash his hands from it, and an ape may pour water over his hands. Rabbi Yossi invalidates the Natila in these last two cases. Um, if one washes his hand with a single rinse, his hand is tahor. But as regards two hands with a single rinse, Meir rules them tummy unless he washes them with a revius of water. If a loaf of truma fell into the water, it is tahor, and Reb Rossi rules it tummy. If one poured the first waters in one
Oh,
place
sorry,
and the
sorry, we're done there.
done, well done.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Okay.
okay.
Shirin Daled Aleph.
Regarding when it was bent down to drink, the water that comes up on his mouth and mustache is included in the law of what water is placed. But as for the water on his nose and on his head or on his beard, it is not included in the law of water is placed. Regarding one who fills a barrel with water, the water that comes up on the outside, and its rope that is coiled around its neck, and the rope that is for its needs, the water is included in the law of water is placed. How much is for its needs? Reb Shimon and Elazar said the tefach. But if he puts it beneath a pipe, the water is not included in the law of water is placed. Regarding someone upon whom rain fell, even if he is an atuma, the water is not included in the law of water is placed. But if he shook it off, the water is included in the law of water is placed. And if he stood under a pipe to cool off or to rinse himself, in the case of a Tami person, the water is Tame. And in the case of a Tama person, the water is included in the law of water is placed. Regarding one who turns over a dish on top of a wall so that it will be rinsed, this water is included in the law of water is placed. And if he turns over the dish so that the wall should be not be damaged, the water is not included in the law of water is placed.
And Para.
The saddle baskets and the tarbal bed and the horn of a coffin and the horns of travelers and the ring of keys and the bastings of the launderers and a garment that is stitched with kalayim, all considered a connection for tumah, but not considered a connection for sprinkling. The cover of a kettle that was attached with a chain to a chain, Reb Shammai says it is considered a connection for tumah, but not considered a connection for sprinkling. Priscilla says if one sprinkled on the kettle, the cover has been sprinkled upon as well. If he sprinkled on the cover, the kettle has not been sprinkled upon. All eligible to sprinkle except for a tumtum and her fadat, and a woman and a minor who does not have awareness. A woman assists him and he sprinkles, and she holds the water for him and he dips and sprinkles. If she held his hand even during the sprinkling, it is invalid. Okay, one more.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
finish this.
If one dipped himself by day and sprinkled by day, it is valid. By day and he sprinkled at night he had sprinkled by day, it's not valid. But he himself immerses at night and sprinkles by day, since we do not sprinkle until sunrise, and all of them have acted from dawn, is valid. Hajj
Maseches Para, and tomorrow is Torah.
Toros. Ila.
Yeah.
Bull offerings that are burned and he-goat offerings that are burned are subject to Me'ilah. From when they are consecrated. Once they are slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with a tel yom, through contact with a machusa kaporim, or through remaining past their time. Once the blood is sprinkled, one is liable on account of pigul, nosa, and tome, and they remain subject to me'ilah in the place of the ashes until the meat has been consumed by the fire. The odor is subject to me'ilah when it is consecrated. Once it is slaughtered, it becomes prepared to be disqualified through contact with a tel yom, through contact with a makusa, kaporim, or through remaining past its time. Once its blood is thrown upon the altar, one is liable on its account for pigul, noser, and tome, and its hide is no longer subject to me'ilah. But the meat remains subject to me'ilah until it goes out to the place of the ashes. The kasas, the asham, and the communal shalom offerings are subject to me'ilah from when they are consecrated. Once they are slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the tel yom, through contact with the wakusa kaporim, or through remaining past their time. Once their blood is sprinkled upon the altar, one is liable on their account to pigul, noser, or tame, and the meat is no longer subject to me'ilah, but the sacrificial parts are subject to me'ilah until they go out to the place of the ashes. The stay alechem are subject to
Nope,
me'ilah when they
nope,
are.
nope, 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 nope.
That was it.
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay. Yes. If one robs his father and swears to him and he dies, he pays the principal and a fifth to his sons or to his brothers. But if he does not wish to, or he does not have to, he may borrow, and the creditors come in and see their payment. If one says to his son, Kohen, if you will benefit from what is mine, and he dies, he inherits him. But if he said he should apply during his lifetime and after his death, and he dies, he does not inherit him, and he must return it to his sons or to his brothers. If he does not have, he may borrow, and the creditors come and receive payment. If one robs a proselyte and swears to him and he dies, he pays the principal and a fifth to the Kohanim and a guilt offering to the altar, as it is said. But if the man has no kinsman to whom to return the restitution for the guilt, the restitution for the guilt, which is returned to Hashem, goes to the Kohen, besides the rent of the atonements with which he fell, and with which he will atone for him. If he was bringing up the money and the guilt offering and he died, the money shall be given to his sons, and the guilt offering shall graze until it develops blemish. It is then sold, and its money is placed in the night of offering chest. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Made a mistake. Wait a second. Let me think. Okay. And Arabic. A doorbolt which has a knob at its end, Reb Elliot prohibits its use, but Reb Yossi permits it. Reb Elazar said Reb Elazar, it happened that in the synagogue at Tiberias they were accustomed to permit this until Rabbi Gamliel and the sages came and forbid it to them. Reb Yossi says they were accustomed to forbid this. Reb Gamliel and the sages came and permitted it to them. The doorbolt which drags on the ground, we may lock with it in the temple, but not on the provinces. But one which rests on the ground is prohibited here and there. Rabbi Yehuda says one which rests is permitted in the temple, and one that drags even in the provinces. We may insert the lower pivot in the temple, and not in the provinces, but the upper one is prohibited here and there, and Rabbi Yehuda says the upper one of the temple and the lower one in the provinces.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we are done. That's terrific.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Day.
Enjoy, and I will see you, Mr. Shem, tomorrow. Okay.